Welcome everyone to Tan Zhongyi, the leader of the tournament, taking on the young talent R. Vaishali. Tan Zhongyi is playing with the white pieces and opens the game with 1d4. Let's see what Vaishali comes up with. She is on half point out of 1. Tan Zhongyi is on 1 out of 1. She's a very strong player. Knight f6 played by Vaishali, and Vaishali must remain very careful because Tan Zhongyi is somehow one of those players who's been improving rapidly at chess, and she plays knight to c3. Very interesting. She's going for the Verasov, and d5 played by Vaishali, stopping the pawn from coming ahead to e4. But is Tan Zhongyi going to play the Jobawa London? Yes, she does. Bishop f4. In this tournament, Tan Zhongyi is being supported by none other than Jeffrey Jiang, who is her second. So c5 played, and now the center is being hit, and I think it's a good decision by Vaishali. e3 played by Tan, and if you go like knight c6 now, then you will face trouble with knight b5 and this problem. So this has to be solved. So first Vaishali takes on d4. Clearly if you go knight to b5 now, then there is queen a5 check with some problems to solve. So that's the reason why pawn takes pawn was played, and now Vaishali just pushed her pawn to a6 to stop the knight from coming to b5. And Tan Zhongyi now puts her knight out to f3. So knight cannot jump to b5, and white has all the pieces coming out. The only problem by conventional thinking is that the knight on c3 is not ideally placed. You want your pawn there and knight to move somewhere else, but dynamically it would create many chances. h3 played here to create a small luft for the bishop to go back to h2 in case that is required. Vaishali can now bring her bishop out to f5, and that looks like a great idea because then you can play e6 as well, and she does it. She puts her bishop on f5, but here maybe the idea of h3 can be g4. No, not really. Tan Zhongyi just plays bishop d3, offers the trade of bishops, and I think Vaishali would just like to take it. Yes, she takes. And after queen takes on d3, let's see what move will Vaishali play here. I think a most logical way is e6 and bishop d6. She goes e6. That is the move. And now Tan Zhongyi just castles. In fact, I think Tan Zhongyi's entire strategy is just to play a normal game of opening. Don't worry too much about the advantage in the opening. Just play and see what happens. We will figure out the details later. So she takes on d6, and Vaishali takes back with the queen. So the position is absolutely equal. If white could do something now that could prevent black from castling, that could be something, but it's not possible. She goes rook e1, and now Vaishali can just castle. With that, she would have all her pieces out, so she castles. And also a very simple plan of putting her rook on c8 and then slowly pushing her queenside pawns. So it's quite straightforward. a3 played by Tan Zhongyi. I think one of the things that Tan Zhongyi knows is that Vaishali is very good at dynamic positions. So she has kind of removed the juice from the position and is just playing simple chess. Queen c7 by Vaishali, maybe not needed, but she does it. Knight a2. Whoa, that's a very interesting idea. Maybe she wants to go knight c1, move the queen, knight d3 and knight e5. That could be one plan. Vaishali simply continues her development. Rook a c8. She could have also put the other rook there. What does Tan Zhongyi do now? She plays her pawn to c3. Okay, that's pretty cool. Now knight a5 looks very logical in order to come to c4, but Vaishali plays knight to e4. Does that give a small chance to white to push the pawn to c4? Because you can't take, the knight would be hanging. No, Tan Zhongyi gets into no such complications. She just brings her queen back, and as we know, she's just planning to go knight c1, knight d3, and look at the e5 and c5 squares. Knight a5 has been played. And will Tan Zhongyi continue with her knight? Yes, this time the knight does the journey from b4 to d3. And what is Vaishali planning? She jumps in with the knight to b3. Slightly suspect, I would say, because the knight on b3 isn't doing much once the rook moves away. So yeah, exactly, rook a d1, good move by Tan Zhongyi. And now what is Vaishali's knight doing on b3 is a good question. Well, Vaishali pushes the other knight away, and you can see that how in a bid to do something, Vaishali has misplaced her piece, also pushed the pawn. Maybe now b5, b4 is something that you have to think about seriously. Otherwise, white's pieces are slightly more superiorly placed. a4 played. Well, again, a very, very provocative move, because now the plan of b5, b4 is gone. And Tan Zhongyi just jumps in with her knight to the center of the board, and she asks Vaishali, what are you going to do next? Meanwhile, white's plan is just to use her pieces to somehow create an attack in the center and on the king side. Vaishali brings her knight back. Maybe that's her plan. She wants to put her knight on c4 when the b2 pawn is a permanent weakness because of the a4 pawn. It has been blocked totally. But first, Tan Zhongyi pushes the black knight away, and I think one of the aims of the Chinese GM is to create some way to put pressure on Vaishali on the king side. Knight d6 played here, and will Tan Zhongyi now simply move her king to the side? That seems like a normal move. She goes knight to f4. Well, in general, the knight isn't doing much there, so I don't know what the point of this move is. Maybe the point is to just put the knight on h5, just looking at these squares close to the black king. Knight c4 comes on the board, and now knight comes back to d3. She's maneuvering her pieces very well. She's avoiding exchanges as well, perhaps. And now rook e8. It's a useful move to make. So the slow maneuvering game continues, and Tan Zhongyi now moves her queen to f2. Maybe the queen pops out to g3. Maybe the knight goes to h5. These are the plans. And Vaishali plays her rook to e7. You can see that it's slightly uncomfortable because there's not much to do. And rook e2. Again, waiting. What a strategy this is by Tan Zhongyi. She's just waiting. She's doing nothing. She's just enjoying herself, making small little moves. Rook e8. Is Vaishali getting ready, gearing up for the e5 break? Not really, because the d5 pawn is very soft. So I don't know what this doubling means, but even Tan Zhongyi doubles. But her doubling is much more aggressive because she has that as a semi-open file. b6 played by Vaishali. She's just waiting there right now. And now what is Tan Zhongyi's next move? Whoa, she starts off. She first goes g4 and she says to Vaishali, do whatever you want to do. I'm actually going to start playing on the king side. Vaishali is trying to create play on the queen side. But you know, this knight on d3 is such a monstrous piece. It's defending, attacking. It's a brilliant piece. Now the queen comes out to h4. So slowly, it's not just the two knights which are well placed and the two rooks, but now also the queen is well positioned. So queen d6 played by Vaishali. And now will Tan Zhongyi, she goes knight h5. She is bringing her knight in. Maybe the queen moves in slowly, and then there's a mating net coming up on g6, g7 square. f6 is played. And now can Tan Zhongyi push her pawn to g5? Yes, she does. She pushes her pawn to g5. If you take here, queen takes, and then the e5 square is weakened permanently. So, but Vaishali makes a blunder. She goes f5 to keep things closed, but this weakens the e5 square, and also creates ideas of check, which may not be easy to meet. You can see Tan Zhongyi now calculating. She has 51 minutes as compared to Vaishali's 5. I think overall what Tan Zhongyi understood from studying Vaishali's games is that you don't need to rush things. You just take it slow, move by move, and Vaishali will start feeling uncomfortable, and this is exactly what has happened. Now Rook G2 played. The threat of course is to give a check to win an exchange, and if you take, I take, and I take the rook there. So Vaishali simply moves her king to the side of the board on h8. And what does Tan Zhongyi do now? How does she finish off the attack? It's clear she has a massive attack here. Maybe she brings in the other knight. Whoa, the other knight joins in, putting pressure here. This knight putting pressure here. I love how White's pieces are so well coordinated and are so well placed. e5 played by Vaishali, and now this beautiful move knight f6 was found by Tan Zhongyi. There's a mate on h7, so the knight has to be taken. gf6, and now comes knight g6 check. What a move this is, because if the king moves here, let's say king g8, I take here, rook takes, and then gf6 check, and you lose the rook. Vaishali has resigned after knight g6 check. Tan Zhongyi scores an amazing win. There's so much to learn from this game. In fact, it's one of the ways in which you can beat a very aggressive player by doing absolutely nothing. Trading pieces, going into an equal endgame, and then starting to play ambitiously. So hats off to Tan Zhongyi. She moves on to 2 out of 2. I interviewed her after the game along with the help of a translator, and this is what she had to say. I'm here with the leader of the tournament, Tan Zhongyi, who's on 2 out of 2, and we have Heidi here who's going to translate for us. Tan Zhongyi, you beat Le Tingye in round 1 and Vaishali in round 2. Can you tell us about the first game against Le Tingye?
跟雷霆杰那盘棋，其实我是抱着能够和一盘的心态在下，但是呢，在双方这个就对局的过程当中，我抓住了他时间恐慌的一个漏洞，赢得了胜利。
I felt that the game was pretty good. It was a pretty even game, but unfortunately, Le Tingye made a mistake in time trouble, and that's how I managed to win the game.
And today against Vaishali, you won very quickly. Where did it go wrong for her? What was her mistake?
就是我进入了一个我比瓦莎利更擅长的一个局面，然后他在这个局面当中就是没有意识到危险，然后这个我就顺利的赢下了这盘棋。其实
Okay, so for my game against Vaishali, there was no one specific mistake, but I generally just had a much better and better position, and unfortunately, the danger there was no one specifically dangerous moment.
Okay, thank you so much and congratulations for the victory.
恭喜恭喜，还早。